can still hear the screech of brakes in my head, even after the car has come to a full stop. Dust rolls up, sweeping across the windshield, sunlight breaking into a hazy strip like smoke. In the middle of the abandoned county road, a dark mass lies motionless. At first glance, I think it's just a trash bag blown there by the wind. But then, it breathes. I open the door. The heat hits my face, dry as fire, the smell of asphalt mixed with metal, sharp, acrid. I step closer, my shoes crunching over burning gravel. And then I see it clearly, a Doberman mother. Her body is so thin that every breath pushes her ribs up against torn skin. Her front legs tremble, tucked in the defensive posture of a creature too tired to fight but still trying not to fall. Her eyes half closed, her mouth slightly open, she breathes in shallow threads about to snap. Right beside her, a smaller one. Not even 3 months old. Brown-black fur shining under the sun, sitting upright like a sentinel. It doesn't bark. It doesn't run. It just looks at me. A strange look. Not fear. Not begging. A prayer. As if it believes I've been sent here, right now, to this very place. I stop a few steps away and hear a faint sound. Very faint. Like wind sliding through a pipe. No. It's the mother's breathing. A weak, wet pull. Like lungs trying to find a reason to keep going. My throat dries. I kneel. The smell of blood, sun-baked earth, wet fur, all of it blending into the scent of survival. I place my hand on her flank. The skin is hot, but the limbs are cold. Her heart still beats. Slow. Uneven. She's probably been here for hours. Maybe all day. Next to her, a rusty steel collar with a broken clasp. Evidence of an abandonment that wasn't an accident. Someone owned her once. Someone chose to leave her here. The puppy presses its head against its mother's shoulder. I see its back quiver, but it doesn't retreat. It licks her mouth, whimpers softly, eyes fixed on her. Its tiny breaths come fast but steady, like it's trying to keep her flame alive. Dry wind rips across the field, blowing grit into my face. No cars, no people, only the sun, dust, and 2 living beings on the edge of death. I pull a bottle of water from the car, twist it open, and drip a few drops onto the mother's lips. She flinches, weak, but there. I whisper, even though I know she can't understand. It's okay, girl. Just breathe. I'm here now. My own voice sounds brittle in the noon heat. The puppy's eyes flick to the bottle, brown eyes shimmering, a spark of hope. It licks its mother's mouth again, then turns to me. That looks like it hands me the choice, life or death. A look that tells me if I walk away now, I'll carry it forever. I slide my arms under the mother's belly and lift. Her body is terrifyingly light. My back strains. My arms shake, but I hold on. The puppy barks once, hoarse, cracking, then darts around my legs and wriggles under my arm as if to keep its mother from slipping. A gust of wind sweeps through. Heat rises, then sinks, carrying the scent of asphalt burning. That's when I notice. Beneath her damp fur, her neck is bleeding. The old steel collar has cut deep, leaving a rusty red line. I swallow hard. Someone tied her up, then walked away. A simple decision, and now I stand before another one. I don't remember how I opened the car door, only the squeal of the hinge and my hand slipping from sweat. I lay the mother on the blanket in the back seat, then crouch down and pat the puppy. "Come on, kid." It doesn't need to hear it twice. It jumps in, curls against its mother, head resting on her chest, eyes still open, guarding each breath. As I close the door, wind gusts through the window, lifting the tattered flag hanging from my rearview mirror like a signal. I grip the wheel tighter. Sweat runs down my back. My heart races, not from fear, but because her heartbeat has somehow merged with mine. On the radio, the weather report keeps talking about heat waves, drought, and wildfires. But inside this car, there's only one story: a man trying to drive faster than death. And I don't yet know that the next 14 minutes will change my entire life. The dashboard clock read 11:42 a.m., the outside temperature blinking 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Not a single cloud in the sky. The road stretched flat like a sheet of red-hot metal, sunlight reflecting so bright it burned the eyes. I drove slowly, hands resting light on the wheel, eyes fixed on the rearview mirror, where the Doberman mother lay motionless on a gray blanket, and the pup pressed tight against her, its head resting on her chest, as if moving an inch away would make the world collapse. Inside the car, the air was thick. The smell of dried blood, wet fur, and disinfectant from the first aid kit mixed together, scraping my throat raw like I'd swallowed stone. I rolled the window halfway down. The wind hit my face, hot enough to scald, carrying the scent of scorched earth. Every breath from the mother came out thin and ragged, slow, like a rusted door straining to open one last time. Every time that sound stopped, I checked the mirror, afraid. Then she'd breathe again, and I'd live another second. The pup, I didn't know its name, so I just called it Kid in my head, never took its eyes off her. Sometimes it licked her lips, then lifted its head toward the window, watching the broken sunlight flicker across the road. I didn't know what I was hoping for, but that gaze made my chest tighten. It didn't know the word death. It only knew wait. Out beyond, fields of scorched gold stretched without end. Broken power poles, bent road signs. I passed an abandoned gas station where a rusted board leaned, the words "ice-cold beer" fading into the sun. The land looked stripped of every intent to save itself. Only the three of us, trapped in a small car, pushed against the silence of the world. Turning onto the county road, I caught a sign: Harris Veterinary, 7 miles. 7 miles. Just 7. But I knew in those 7 miles, a life could vanish at any moment. I reached back, touched the edge of the blanket. Her skin was dry, but beneath it still burned. Pulse weak, heartbeat scattered, like a traveler lost in a desert. My throat tightened. I couldn't let her die in the back seat, not with the kid watching. I grabbed my phone and dialed Dr. Harris. The signal cracked, his voice cut through the static. "Keep her conscious. If she's still licking water, her body's fighting." "I'm on my way." 10 minutes. "Don't let her overheat. Open the windows, cool her, but no cold water directly. And talk to her." I froze. Talk? Yes. A mother dog hearing a calm human voice will steady her heart. Just talk. Then the line went dead. I set the phone down, inhaled deeply, and began to speak, as if to someone balancing between two worlds. "Hey girl, I don't know your name, but I can see you're stronger than I ever imagined. Just a little longer." No response. Only the sound of tires grinding over asphalt. Then the pup whimpered. It stood, pressed its nose to her neck, then licked the rusted scar where the collar had bitten. I saw her throat twitch. A reflex. Small, but real. I pressed the gas, the needle climbing to 60. We sped across a narrow bridge, the riverbed beneath long dry since May. Above us, hawks circled high. A chill shot down my spine. The pup looked too, its eyes darkening. It understood. It knew what waited. And still, it never left her side. I gripped the wheel harder, sweat sliding from my temple to my collar. I wasn't sure if I was driving on reflex or faith. I only knew something inside this car was making my heart beat differently. A blind belief that if I stopped, if I gave up, the world would lose something it could never replace. When the sign "Welcome to Brindle County" appeared, my throat was so dry I couldn't swallow. The clinic stood at the end of the road, a small, cream-colored house with a white fence. I pulled hard to the curb, brakes screeching. The door swung open. Dr. Harris was already waiting, lab coat soaked in sweat, eyes widening as he saw me carrying the Doberman mother in my arms. Good God, how long has she been out there? I don't know, but she's still breathing. He signaled for Linda, the nurse, to bring the gurney. The wheels rattled fast over the concrete like a racing heartbeat. The pup stayed in the car, standing on the seat, head poking through the door, whining without pause. I turned back to it and said, "Wait here, kid. Your mom's still with us." Dry wind whipped my face. The sun blazed so hard that everything seemed to shimmer. I followed them inside, the glass door closing behind me. The scent of disinfectant, the cold rush of air conditioning, the blinding white lights, all hit at once. And in that moment, I couldn't hear the traffic outside anymore. Only one sound cut through the air. The fragile breath of a creature refusing to give up. The light in the emergency room was so bright I had to squint. Strips of white poured down from the surgical lamps, cold and indifferent, reflecting off the charred black fur of the Doberman mother. Dr. Harris pulled on gloves. Linda had already started the IV pump. The steady beeping of the monitor sounded like a thin bridge between two worlds. "Table 2, he said, voice clipped. The metal table was cold. The sound of her body hitting it sent a shiver down my spine. Her body jerked once, then went still. I stepped back. Sweat kept sliding down my collar, sticking like glue. The air was heavy with antiseptic, iron, blood, and antibiotics rising under the heat of the lamps. Linda sheared the fur around her neck, each snip rasping, revealing bruised skin with the rusty imprint still pressed in. The old collar was cut off, clattering to the floor with a soft clang, a light sound that felt like a confession. Dr. Harris slipped in an IV line. Clear fluid began to flow. He glanced at the monitor, frowned. Weak pulse, severe dehydration, signs of kidney failure. Linda asked quickly, "Adrenaline?" "No. Stabilize first. Cool her with damp towels. Warm only." No sudden cold. I stood there, not knowing what to do but clenching my hands and watching. The pup was still outside, pressed to the glass door, tiny body against the pane, front paws on the metal frame. Its wet eyes never left her for a second. I heard Dr. Harris speak low. "You know why, after 20 years, I still can't get used to the smell of death?" I didn't answer. He went on, voice deep, like speaking to himself. "Because the moment before it comes, it's always so terribly quiet." And right then, the room was exactly that, cutting quiet. Only the sound of the fourth pump, the clock ticking, and her labored, heavy breaths. I watched her chest rise, thin, then stop. 1 second, 2. No beep. Linda's voice snapped. "She's flatlining!" Dr. Harris planted both hands on her chest, compressing. 1, 2, 3. I stood frozen, my own heart falling into that same void. "Come on, girl. Come on," he muttered, pressing her chest, eyes flicking to the monitor. Linda held the airway, the hiss of the resuscitator filling the room. A thread of hope. Then, beep, one beep, then another. Her heart started again. Linda looked up, eyes wet. She's back. Dr. Harris exhaled, not smiling, only saying quietly, "Not because of us." Because her pup's still waiting outside, I turned to the glass. The kid was still there. It hadn't moved for nearly 30 minutes. Its eyes met mine through the glass as if asking, "Alive?" I nodded. It whined softly, then sat, head leaning against the door. A current from the AC brushed the mother's muzzle, lifting a few stray hairs. Dr. Harris adjusted the IV, his voice softer now. "She's more stable, but she's not out of danger. 72 hours of monitoring. Could be sepsis, could lose reflexes if the heart stops again." I asked, "Can I stay?" "If you can stand the smell, yes." I nodded. Linda handed me a wooden chair. I sat beside the metal table, listening to her breathing weave into the hum of the air conditioner. Dr. Harris dimmed the overhead lamps, leaving only a muted strip of light. The room became softer, yet heavier. I looked at her. The wounds, the veins, the fresh stitches, each one telling a life once owned, once stroked, then thrown away like trash. I spoke quietly, almost a whisper. "Hang on, girl. Don't let your pup grow up alone." No reply. Only the steady beep of the monitor. But in that rhythm, I heard something small, something real. Will. As if that broken heart still beat for one reason only, because her pup still breathed. Linda cleared the instruments. Dr. Harris stepped out to order meds. I stayed, eyes fixed on the thin body on the table. The overhead light struck her half-closed eyes, revealing a glint at the corner. I didn't know if it was sweat, IV fluid, or a tear. But when that droplet hit the cold metal with a faint tick, I knew. She was still here. I stood, cracked the door open, and stepped outside for a moment. The pup rushed up, pressing its head to my leg, whimpering softly. I bent down, stroked its head. "She's still breathing, you hear?" Still breathing. It lifted its head to me, then looked back through the glass, tail flicking, eyes lit with the first spark of light all afternoon. The door closed. The beeping inside grew steadier. I leaned against the wall, drawing a long breath. And for the first time that day, I believed, just maybe, we had pulled a life back from the hands of death. 3 days later, the recovery room still burned with light through the nights. The sound of 4 pumps, the fan, her ragged breathing, blended into a rhythm so fragile I was afraid one sharp noise might erase it. Nora lay on the medical pad, her body wrapped in white bandages, each breath still strained. Dr. Harris said, "If she makes it through tonight, then we can call it a chance." I nodded, though inside I knew this chance was thinning by the minute. The pup, Bolt, never left the small crate beside the recovery table. He lay there, head resting on the bars, eyes open, closing only when exhaustion forced him. Every time Nora whimpered, Bolt startled awake, whimpering with her, as if their hearts beat in the same thread of life. I remembered Dr. Harris once said, "She lives because of her pup. Don't separate them." So each day, I opened the crate once, letting Bolt crawl inside. He stepped softly, as if he knew he was walking across something breakable. He pressed his belly against her chest, breathed, then curled into a ball. And Nora, even with her eyes shut, would tilt her head toward him, nudging lightly against his back, the instinctive touch of a mother still fighting. The air clung with the smell of medicine, iron, and sunburnt skin. Some nights I drifted off in the chair, jerking awake at the sound of Nora's breath slipping. Each time I pressed my hand against her chest, felt the broken rhythm shuddering. I whispered, "It's okay, girl. Don't give up. Your pup's still waiting." On the second night, the fever hit. The thermometer spiked to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Her body shuddered violently. The fourth dripped twice as fast, Dr. Harris replaced the dressings, injected antibiotics, and laid small ice packs across her chest. Sweat drenched my shirt. My hands shook as I wiped her mouth, tears falling without me noticing. Her breath came short, eyes half open, cloudy like fog. But when Bolt let out one sharp cry, I saw her pupils tighten, as if his voice was the rope pulling her back to shore. The room fell silent. Only 2 heartbeats remained, weak but sinking. Linda stood behind me, speaking softly. "We're only holding the body together. The soul, maybe the pup's the one holding it." I nodded, unable to speak. I knew what she meant. Since the moment I brought them here, no one in this room had treated this as just a case. This was a reminder. Even love, gasping for air, could be the strongest medicine. The next morning, when the first light streamed through the glass window, Nora opened her eyes. Slow, but aware. I held my breath. She turned her head to the right, toward where Bolt lay, and drew in a deep, deliberate breath. Goosebumps ran across my arms. Dr. Harris stepped forward, checked her reflexes, then looked at me, voice low. Heartbeat steadier. Fever down. She's coming back. Bolt barked once, scrambled up beside the table, wagging hard, licking the edge of her bandage. And for the first time since that day, Nora answered with a whimper. Not loud, but clear, like a whisper. "I'm still here." I braced my hands on the table, bowed my head, and breathed in the scent of life. Medicine, warmth, wet fur still carrying breath. And I knew. She had won the longest night. We were not yet out of danger, but the most important thing had already happened. That heart, once again, had chosen to stay. Day 4. The recovery room no longer rang with constant machines, only the soft, spaced-out beeps, light as the breath of sleep. Dr. Harris removed the IV. Linda changed the bandages, cleaned the wounds, and gently dabbed the healed skin around her neck. Nora lay quietly, not struggling, her warm brown eyes wandering the room. Bolt stood beside the table, stretched his head and licked her nose as if asking, "Really? You're really okay, aren't you, Mom?" Nora tilted her head slightly, ears drooping. In that moment, I felt, for the first time, the room had real life in it. That morning, sunlight streamed through the glass, laying a narrow stripe across the metal table. Nora gazed into the beam, then drew in a long breath, as if remembering the scent of open fields. Dr. Harris glanced at me, voice slow. "If there are no complications, she'll be walking in a few days." I nodded, lips dry. Hearing that felt like my chest opened wide. By afternoon, I took Bolt into the backyard to stretch his legs. Dry grass, sunlight caught in the mesh shades, the smell of medicine still lingering in his fur. He ran, tail wagging, but every few seconds he turned back toward the door, where Nora lay resting. I sat on the steps, watching, my heart lighter than it had been in days. It seemed everything was sliding back toward recovery. But storms usually arrive the moment you finally exhale. That night, when I came back to the room, I found Nora lying still. Not asleep. Still. Her eyes closed tight. Her chest barely moved. I touched her nose. It was colder than ever. Panic shot straight up my throat. "Dr. Harris!" I shouted. The room burst alive. Lights blazed. Linda rushed in with a stethoscope. The monitor spiked erratically. Her heart was faltering. Dr. Harris pressed down on her chest, injected adrenaline. His voice sharp. "Anaphylactic shock. Could be from the antibiotics. Keep her head low. Push the fluids fast." Bolt heard it, lunged at the door, barking himself hoarse, claws raking the metal frame. His cries tore through the room. I bent close, hand pressed against Nora's chest, hearing only the thin flutter like a breaking thread. Something inside me snapped open. I shouted, "Fight! You hear me? You owe your pup one more morning." Dr. Harris didn't look at me, only said quickly, "She's seizing. Prep for a second dose." I grabbed Bolt, pulled him back, but he writhed, choking as if the air itself was being cut away. The glass door rattled, and in that chaos I heard it. A faint whimper. Linda's head snapped up. "She's responding." The heartbeat ticked again on the monitor, slow, then steadier. Dr. Harris dropped his hands, sweat breaking across his forehead. "She's back." He looked at me, voice low. "But if she crashes again, I can't promise we'll hold her." I nodded, words locked in my throat. Outside, Bolt had collapsed to the floor, panting hard, eyes still locked on his mother. The storm passed, leaving the room cut in silence. Linda dimmed the lights, letting only a warm strip fall through the blinds. Dr. Harris stepped out, murmuring before closing the door, "If she makes it through tonight, then we've won another round." I stayed. The light fell on the white bandage wrapped around Nora's neck. Every breath she took now was a miracle. Bolt whimpered, then curled at my feet. I laid my hand across his back, whispering like a prayer, "It's okay, kid. She's come back once. She'll do it again." Wind hissed down the hallway, cold, metallic in the gap under the door. But inside this room, that fragile breath still lingered. Slow, but there. A sign as faint as a dying flame, still burning only so her pup would not grow up in the dark. 7th morning. The room still carried the smell of antiseptic, but no longer the smell of fear. Light poured through the blinds, striking the white bandage on Nora's neck, making it glow like the scar of a warrior. I eased the door open. Bolt darted in first, his little paws skittering across the tiles, tail whipping wildly. He bounced around the table, letting out short barks, not frantic anymore, but joyous. Nora turned her head toward the sound. Her eyes opened, dark brown, brighter than any day before. One ear drooped, the fur around her bandage bristled, but that look, the look of someone who had come back from where no one thought return was possible. I stepped closer and whispered, "Good morning, girl." She didn't whine. She drew in a long breath, then tried to shift her body. Bolt froze, watching, eyes wide. Dr. Harris entered just then, and when he saw it, he murmured, "If she stands today, it means the miracle's halfway done." Nora stretched her front legs, trembling. Claws scraped the steel floor. I reached to steady her, and Linda held the IV line gently. 1, 2, 3. She braced. Her chest heaved, her heartbeat spiking on the monitor. The whole room held its breath. Then Nora stood. Not steady, not long, only a few seconds. But to us, it was an entire life given back. Bolt lunged forward, barking, wagging, stretching up to lick her paw. Nora looked down, her gaze softening. She wobbled, sank, then pushed again, as if refusing to let her pup see her fall. Linda broke into tears, still holding the IV line, her voice shaking. "She's fighting for her pup." I smiled, my voice cracking. "No. Not just for him. For herself." Moments later, Nora collapsed forward, but I caught her. Her body trembled, yet her breathing stayed steady. Bolt pressed against her chest, whimpering softly. Dr. Harris checked the monitor, smiled faintly. "Heart's strong. No more stimulants needed. She's doing this on her own." The room fell into silence, broken only by the beat of her heart. Fast, firm, clear. Like the drum of someone stepping back from the edge of death. I looked at Nora and whispered, Welcome home, warrior. The sunlight struck her eyes. She turned toward the window. Out there, the grass shone under the morning sun like a path leading back to freedom. I needed no other sign. I knew she had won. Not against illness, against fear. 2 weeks later, Nora could walk on her own without support. The bandages were gone, leaving only a thin scar circling her neck, fading each day, like a memory slowly being forgiven. Every morning, when Dr. Harris opened the door, Bolt was the first to bolt out, dragging his little leash, barking as if demanding a walk. Nora followed behind, slowly, her gait still uneven, but each step carried a resilience you couldn't mistake. I arrived earlier than usual, poured myself a cup of black coffee and stood at the glass door watching them. Morning light spilled into the recovery room, laying gold across Nora's dark coat, across Bolt's small, radiant face. I realized I was smiling. The first smile since that day I hit the brakes on a deserted country road. Dr. Harris approached with a folder in his hand. "They're ready. Mother and pup will be discharged this week." He paused, gazed out at the yard, his voice slowing. "I've witnessed a lot of miracles, but few that began with just a single break," I answered quietly. "It wasn't a miracle. It was just someone choosing to stop." That afternoon, I drove Nora and Bolt back to my small farm. The Texas sky spilled wide with golden light, the wind carrying the smell of earth after rain, the warmest, most alive scent I've ever known. Nora lay in the back, head resting on the window, eyes tracing the tall, dry grass. Bolt curled in my lap, snoring softly. Each time the car jolted, he shifted, then sought out his mother's scent again. When we arrived, I opened the door, and the late sun washed across the wooden porch. Nora paused at the threshold. She stood there a long while, sniffing the air, breathing in the wood, the grass, the freedom. Then she stepped inside. No fear, no hesitation. Bolt bounded in circles, grabbed a small stick, and dropped it at his mother's paws, his way of saying, "We're home." That first night, I spread an old blanket near the fireplace. Nora lay down, resting her head on my leg. Bolt wedged himself between us, warm, soft, his breath steady. Outside, the wind rattled the door. Crickets sang, and the smell of rain still lingered in the soil. I stroked along her back, feeling the steady, calm beat of her heart. She lifted her head to look at me. In the firelight, her eyes reflected something words could never carry. "Thank you for seeing me." I smiled, whispered back, "Thank you for not giving up." I knew then. We had both changed. She, from a broken body into a symbol of resilience. Me, from a passerby into someone who believed that even the smallest act mattered. I looked out the window, where moonlight spread across the fields, and in that soft light, Nora rose, gazed into the distance, then glanced back. Look back. I would remember for the rest of my life. The gentlest one I've ever known. Now, every time I drive that road, where dust still clings and weeds grow through the old cracks, I always glance to the right, that place where I first saw a skeletal body and the pleading eyes of a pup. No one lies there anymore, but whenever the wind passes, I still hear that fragile breath, still see the two of them beneath that blinding noonday sun. Nora and Bolt are different now. Every morning when I open the door, they run to me, tails wagging, eyes bright, as if they'd never known the dark. But I know they both died once and chose to live again. And me, I only happened to stop the car. Only happened to stop. But that moment changed my life. I tell this story not to make anyone cry, but to remind you, tomorrow, You might see those same eyes on the roadside, in the rain, in the silence. And when you do, don't look away. Because sometimes all a life needs is one person willing to stop, and maybe that person is you.